Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Resilience Talk with Brad Neufeld. Have you ever wondered what it's like to grow up in a small town? I know very few people get that opportunity, but you've all heard that song by Jason Aldean, In a Small Town. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. My guest today is Kellie Kunzler. She is the author of the book, A Different Kind of Same, A Country Girl's View on the World. You're going to love this book, and she's here to talk about it today. Very inspirational. I know you're going to like it. But sometimes we don't know what it's like between people growing up in the city and in the country, and we think we're so different, but we actually have a lot in common. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Kellie was raised on a ranch up in the little town of Almo up in Southern Idaho. She grew up helping on the ranch and singing in her family's country western dance band. We're going to get into that. Her love of reading started at a young age and opened up a whole new world to her beyond the mountain valley where she lived in. After graduating from college, she was actually going to college to be a secretary, and she met and married her cowboy, Del D. Is that right? Yeah. Del D. All right. Kellie and Del have 6 children and continue the tradition of raising cattle and horses in Rosette. That's here in Utah on the 5th generation ranch that they. I guess you grew up on that as well.
Different community, but yeah, a family ranch.
Wow, okay. But Kellie recently earned her bachelor's degree while studying family history research. She plays the organ, piano at her church congregation, and she is an AEMT. Hey, I got it right, on ambulance service, and she's a 4-H leader. Most of you don't even know what that is, and I want to talk about that too. She also drives a school bus for her local school in Park Valley. Kellie spends most of her time writing, helping out on the ranch, and being a wife and mother, and I hear you make a mean batch of chocolate chip cookies as well.
Well, maybe more the brownies. I don't know.
Are you a brownies girl?
Yeah, I love brownies. My husband does like the chocolate chip cookies, though.
Well, we'll stick with all of them. But anyway, they're all good.
Yes, they're all good.
As long as they're made with that home cooking, right?
Right.
All right. Well, as my audience knows, I grew up on a farm too, 4,000 acres of soybeans down in southern, actually in Alabama, I guess mid-Alabama. But anyway, I just think everybody ought to grow up on a farm. You learn so many good life skills and stuff, and I know when I had my kids, it was like, all right, how do I repeat this? It's kind of hard, but you're lucky to be on the ranch there. So what was it like growing up in southern Idaho?
You know what? I'm so glad I got to. I lived far enough away, like the nearest neighbor was a good half mile to a mile away or around the curve. So like you didn't see each other unless you made the effort to go there. I grew up driving on a dirt road, so I know how to drive on a dirt road. Not everybody does. It's not the same.
Fishtailing too, on purpose?
Oh, sometimes. You got to test that out, know where your limit is, right? Without being dangerous.
Yeah.
So, I lived about 4 or 5 miles away from like the church and the schoolhouse, which is kind of the center of the communities when they're that small. And yeah, I loved it. I loved being kind of away and.
Well, and speaking of the neighbors, that was the one thing. Even though your neighbors were far apart from you, they were there for you. If you needed anything, yeah. Because I remember this one time where my one of the people that we had running our farm, there were the Frank and Marlene Crabtree, wonderful friends of our family, and we were down. I believe that this was in Mississippi actually, but we were. Frank got really sick and had to go into the hospital, and it was right during planting season, and you have to get that crop in at the exact time it needs to be, otherwise you don't have a crop. I mean, you have a very short, tight window. Well, he was gone, was taking care of some things, and the neighbors, while he was gone, just came in and plowed his fields and planted his seeds and everything. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. They just got word of it. I mean,
we still do that today.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, to jump ahead, I guess, we had a thing with our family where my husband was in the hospital, and the neighbors wanted to know what they could do to help. They just stepped up and helped us. It was in May, and I can think of another instance. There was a gentleman that had a health issue and was struggling to get his crop harvested. And then we just all the men in the valley just took a turn, said, hey, let's get this in for him.
Yeah.
So it still goes on today.
Yeah,
Brad.
beautiful thing.
It does.
But why is only in a small town? Oh, wow. There's that song again.
I don't know. Small town. Well, and there's small towns, and there's really small towns.
Right. Well, mine was a town of 1,000. I mean, we were 10 miles from our town. We were in the town, I guess in the jurisdiction was Thomaston. But we were 10 miles to get to town. And the town was a country store on the corner. And yeah, there was only trees on the other 3. There was a little pond down there, and then the high school was right there. That was basically the town. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a 4-way stop. There was no lights at all. But it was a town of 1,000 is what it is. But yours is even smaller than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our valley, you're looking at like a 30-mile stretch at least, and along the highway.
Yeah.
And there's about 170 people, maybe.
Wow.
I'd have to stop and count everybody up, but
Yes.
But yeah, we're very small.
Yeah.
And that's good and tricky. I always said we'll fight amongst ourselves like we're family, but if any outsider tries to come out and go after one of us, it's like, nope, don't mess.
Yes. Yeah, because I've actually heard that with people that they'll tell me, they'll say, I would never be able to make it in a small town because everybody's in everybody's business. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. But it was a great thing.
It's true. But at the same time, we each like our own, you know. Yeah, we tend to know what's going on, but we're not necessarily in each other's business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You just
it does to
know,
me.
Oh, yeah.
It does to me.
You know, the neighbor went down to visit their mom, you know, the wife's mom in town. And we do a lot of this. Hey, is anybody in town? I'm out of milk, or I'm out of this, or we need some grain brought home. And it's like, you just start that phone tree, or some even put it on Facebook. And I love that part about it. We all pitch in, and hey, if I can bring your part home, let me know. I'll bring your tractor part home. No problem.
I'll be gone for the weekend. Will you throw my cows a bale of hay while I'm gone?
Yep. Okay, I have to share this story. I have to share this.
Yeah, please.
So one of the couples that moved into our valley was to teach school, and I became very close friends to this day with his wife. Her name's Michelle. I'll just say that. Everybody knows Michelle and I are good friends. And so when my mother-in-law was in the hospital, she was in there for about a week, and they didn't expect her to live. We were trying to spend as much time as we could in there with her. Yeah. And so they offered to do our chores. Now, when we do chores, we have certain animals that get certain feed and different things. And there was, at the time, it was in April, so we had a couple of calves on the bottle. You know, we had to feed the bottle calves. And it was so funny because my kids take 4-H animals. We had 4-H steers. And so these steers, at that point, are, 900 pounds, 800 pounds. And she calls me. I'm at the hospital. She calls and says, Kellie, we struggled to get, I got everything done. We got all those animals fed, but we were really struggling to feed the bottle calves. And I'm like, why? They're bottle calves.
Right.
And she says, the pretty gold-colored one, though, finally did take the bottle. And I went, I don't have a gold-colored bottle calf. They're black. And all of a sudden it clicked. They had been trying to bottle feed the 4-H steers, the bigger calves. And when I told them that, they just started laughing. They hadn't realized the difference because they just weren't raised around that. But I laughed because her husband says, well, I feel like I accomplished a lot. I did get one of them to suck the bottle. And I just laughed too hard because that was just...
They just didn't speak the language.
They didn't speak the language, but they were willing to try it. So we appreciated that.
Yeah, I know we mentioned in your bio about being part of 4-H. Again, that's just something that most people in big cities just never... Because I was with Future Farmers of America. I don't know if that's still around or not.
Yes, but all of my kids have been part of that.
But I learned so much as being part of that. How much how topography works, how to determine where a crop will grow and won't grow, and and all this stuff, all from Future Farmers of America, which I that's just valuable knowledge that I've been able to use here and there in my life.
Their programs, you're right.
Yeah, tell us about 4-H. What do you do there?
Well, there's not a lot of us in that valley.
Yes.
And so when the previous 4-H leader, her child was done, had shown her last steer, and she handed the reins over to me because I was just starting with my children. And she's like, here, I'm handing this over and you can get to be the 4-H leader.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, thank you. And so I try and do a good job. I'm not as gung-ho as some, but I do try and help the kids and make it fun. And our whole valley is very, very involved in 4-H. All the kids either have a sheep, a pig, or a steer. Okay, and some of
You
them
don't know
started
what a steer
taking
is.
goats.
It's a male cow with his manhood removed. That's the most polite way we can put it. Cause
he's been branded and taken care of.
Yes.
So, but so yeah, I felt honored that she'd actually hand that over to me, because it teaches the kids so much. I mean, they have to learn to be responsible for that animal. They have to know what it's getting fed, how to take care of it, how to try and train it, show it. That gets pretty tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
But as far as responsibility, it is so good. And we've even had others step up and do like a cooking, teach them how to cook and different things. And that's been fun to do. That you can do about anything. Photography's big. We practice taking pictures and things like that. So I don't know. I grew up involved in 4-H. My husband grew up involved in 4-H. And just like a couple of weeks ago, I was adding up how many years I've been personally involved in 4-H, and it's been well over 35.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and so I've always thought about that. These types of programs, how do you duplicate those in a big city? It's just kind of hard because you don't have the open space to put the animals and all of this. I guess you could do it with household pets. I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Do they? Okay.
They check into the 4-H program. They have really added a lot of things. So if you are in town and don't have access to raising an animal, there are so many things you can still do. They even do like STEM stuff, like computer type things, dogs, your pets. You know, there's rabbits, chickens.
Yes.
There's some funny stories. I better not share about the chickens.
Yeah, better. Oh, come on. Let's dig it. No, just kidding. Because anyway, this just brings back memories. I've got an old newspaper article of me because I won the Alabama State, the Future Farmers of America Alabama State land judging contest. I am number one.
Yes.
Yes, I did, and you ought to see my hair. It was long anyway, sticking out to the side, looked like Bozo the Clown. Me and my John Deere hat and everything. But anyway,
that's exciting when that happens, though.
Absolutely.
It's a confidence booster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad, I'm so blessed that I was able to have that opportunity to grow up on the farm, because again, you just learn so many wonderful things, and so.
I say farm kids learn early about life, death, taking care of things, how to help an animal, there's just a lot of things.
Yeah, and you got to share responsibilities too with the family, because again, there was a movie that I saw called the Great Gift or something like that. It's what was it? Ultimate Gift. Anyway, Ultimate Gift.
I know which movie you're talking about.
And they were talking about the. He was talking about on the farm. He goes, "Hey, I'm done building this fence." He goes, "Oh, this work's never done on a farm. You're never done. You just have to, Anyway."
Brad, I've had so many people say, "What do you do out there? There's no place to do anything," and I'm like, there is so much to do. We don't have time to get everything done. We really don't. You just pick and choose the most important at the time, and then if you happen to have some downtime that nothing's pressing, that's when you work on all the other stuff that still needs to get done.
Yeah, and there were so many times, and again, I was only 13, 14, 15 growing up on the farm, and I was so tired at night, and I'd lay down and get in bed, and all of a sudden I hear this voice: "The animals get fed, the horses get fed, No, I'll feed them in the morning. All of a sudden, the light's on.
Yeah, that's not an option.
cattle prod, whatever that electric cattle thing. You're not going to feed. You're going to let those horses starve. Like, all right, I'll go. Yeah,
Get out there
there's things that you just have to do. It just gets you in the mindset of when things got to be done. It doesn't matter how tired you are. You got to do it.
That's exactly right.
So.
Again,
just things that a lot of people don't get to experience. So let's talk about your book here. What led up to this? I mean, I know it'll say it right in your book how you started out just posting things on Facebook, basically. And what prompted you to write the book here? Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get a close up in there. Okay, this is your book, A Different Kind of Same, and the link for it is down in the show notes, so you can get it on Amazon. So.
Okay, just so you know, when I finally got a social media page, a Facebook page, it was mainly because I wanted to know what my kids were doing online.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, just make sure they were safe and being good, and you know how a mom is.
Yes, oh yeah.
And I was never going to post anything. Never going to, I just wanted to know kind of what was going on, pay attention. And as we're coming into COVID and having the COVID shutdown and things, and then watching... Even in our small valley, it could get tense sometimes, because you're worried, well, are you wearing the mask? Are you doing this? And trying to keep everybody safe. And then you'd go into town to pick up supplies and just the different, and then online and on the news. And it really was bothering me. I'm like, why are we turning against each other? Or it just really bothered me, the whole thing, the contention and the worry and stuff, and I just had a feeling, write a little something, share an uplifting message. And so I did, and of course I'm in agriculture, so it involved a little bit of stuff of life on the ranch and farming, and as I put it out there, I had people comment to me how much they appreciated that, and it was just a feeling, okay, keep doing this every week or two, put something out there. And I had a couple of ladies right from the get-go tell me, you need to put it in a book. You need to publish a book. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. But it went on long enough, and I had so many good comments that the time was right.
The time was right.
The time was right last year, and felt like it was time.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated, and that's why I ask that question of every guest I have on here who's an author. What prompted it? Because I know I hear this all the time. People say, yeah, I have a feeling I should write a book, but I don't even know where to start. And I see that struggle with people. Then with me and my book writing process, and yes, my books are coming out soon. I know I've talked about them 1,000 times, but they are coming out. But you just start. You do. Yeah, basically you just sit down and go, okay, if I want to write a book. This one gentleman gave me a tip on it. He says, all right, he says, don't even think about your content. He said, go home and think about how many chapters you want your book to be. And I said, okay. He goes, come back and see me tomorrow. And I came back and I just had this feeling of it's supposed to be 14 chapters. And he goes, all right, now, between now and tomorrow, go name the chapters. Well, of course, we had to start with the name of the book or what we wanted the book to be about. But then he said, go name the chapters. And I just went, okay, that's weird. And so I went and I put names to all the chapters. And then after that, he comes back and he says, all right, now I want you to put a minimum of 6, but at least 10 bullet points of what you want in that chapter. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get to write the book. But it was so interesting after the foundation was laid, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And then after that, he said, now go write the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. Yes, I ended up having to switch chapters in one spot or another, but I started.
So that was your process. And
that was my process.
Outline.
Yep, the outline.
Outlines scare me.
Yeah, and your book, you can tell this is just from your heart. This is awesome. It's just stories from your heart, principles that you've learned along the way, short stories, observations and things. This is great. So anyway, keep going, please.
Well, I was kind of like you. I remember thinking, how long should I make my book? And it was just that feeling, 21. So there's 21 short chapters in this book. Mm-hmm. But it was more about, I would have a thought come to me, and I would start writing. I would write it down and just start writing things that pertain to that, or lessons I've learned, or examples I'd had, and before I knew it, I'd have enough for a chapter. And so that's kind of, or I actually had one experience, I'll share this, that I had posted. I just sat down one night and just had this strong feeling I should write about this thing that happened to me. And so I did. I wrote about it, kind of the things I'd learned from it, and I put it on that night, probably about midnight, 1 o'clock, went to bed. The next day, my neighbor told me, they said, you must have been inspired, because they had had a similar thing happen and they were trying to deal with. And that was just the right time. And so that made me feel good.
Oh, that had to make you feel good.
Yeah, it did. So.
Okay. So remember that. Here, put the camera on me. Remember that, audience out there. You never know who you're going to inspire, okay? Get your words down. Get them on paper. Get them out there. Stop waiting. Okay, now we can go back to our interview.
No, that's a good point, though. It is a good point.
Yeah, you never know. You just never know.
Never know.
Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so important. But I can just tell you this. You're never going to inspire anybody if it's just going to be in your head. We can't read each other's minds, right, guys? So anyway. Okay, any other thoughts that you'd like to share about your book here? What would you like to tell the world about it?
Well, it talks about what we have in common, but also the connections you make with people. One of the examples I give is when I'm at a conference and they say, okay, find someone and talk to them and find 5 things in common. And what's your first reaction? I'll go sit in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember that chapter.
The way I was raised, I probably don't have a single thing in common with anybody in this room. And let me tell you, you will. I guarantee you will find something, if not multiple things, that you have in common. Because
you touch on that in the book, how you were afraid to even talk to anybody because and I find that in my workshops that I used to do too. People think, oh, I'm going through this challenge and nobody's ever gone through it before and nobody can help me. And I'll usually stop the person and say, all right, everybody in this room who's experienced something similar to this, raise your hand. 80% of the room.
80% of them.
Yeah.
Or do you know someone? Or have you watched? Yep.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
So just if we could remember that about each other, I think so much of the contention or bad feelings would go away. The friction. I really think it would.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Who are some of your inspirations? Who helped you put this all together?
That's a really good question. Like I said, I had a couple of ladies that were just so supportive and constantly telling me. And I want to share this.
Yep, please.
I can't tell you how many times I would post something and then be at an event or something, and a gentleman, a fellow rancher, some of them I knew, some I didn't know, would come up and say, hey, I read what you wrote on Facebook. I got on my wife's Facebook page. That was good. Keep writing. Because I have some good messages, I guess, or they could relate to what I was sharing.
Yeah.
And that probably more than anything said, you're onto something. You need to keep sharing this. That and that feeling in your heart that keeps coming that says, keep doing this. Keep doing this. When I'm like, do I have to?
Do I have to?
I'm kind of embarrassed, or, you get embarrassed or nervous, and I was like, do I really put this there? And it was just, so, yeah.
All right. Well, let's have some final thoughts about growing up in a small town, and we'll, because again, I'm so glad you brought this out, because what the first impression that I had as I was going through it, Kelly, was that, we as human beings do have a lot in common, but we have been so divided. There's a force out there that just is, if I can say, hell-bent on just dividing us, and
hard at work.
It's hard at work, wanting us to not see each other's strengths and to judge each other and all this other stuff. And I'm so done with it. I'm so tired of it. And this is one way that a person can look at this and go, you know what? I do have something in common with that person on the streets of Salt Lake or in the streets of Chicago or whatever. Even though I did grow up in a small town, I do have a lot in common with family and everything else. So.
Just last night, I went to dinner with my daughter here in Salt Lake, and the waitress, I'm going to say she happened to have a Western leather belt on. And so I complimented her on her belt. I loved it. I thought, she's got to be a country girl at heart.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when I talked to her,
Yeah.
she was, and she was so excited that I had commented and complimented her on her belt. Mm-hmm. Something that simple, you guys,
Yeah.
can spread so much good. And I don't know, that just made my day to run into someone I felt a kinship with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my daughter spent a couple of months in New York City. Now, I was nervous for her to go to New York. Mm-hmm. And she's a country girl. She's got her boots and jeans and loves to be on the horse and help move cows. But she handled herself just fine in New York City, too, and just made friends wherever she went. So it's possible, guys.
Definitely possible. Definitely. Well, Kellie, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so glad we were able to connect and go through this. But anyway, everybody, please get this book. Kellie Kunzler is our guest today. Her book, A Different Kind of Same, What a Country Girl Possibly Have in Common with Anybody Who is Raised in a City. Absolutely. It's a country girl's view of the world. Anyway, I love this. Get your copy. You can catch the link right down bottom here for Amazon. And it's also at Barnes & Noble and other places
yes.
too. Okay.
Yep.
So I'll put all the links down there so you can go to your favorite bookstore and be able to get that. Be sure and get your copy of that. But again, thank you so much, Kellie. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to see more of our interviews, you can check us out on any of the social media networks. You can Google Resilience Talk Network. We're all over the place. We bring you inspirational stuff just like this to help you through your life, to help you through the ups and downs. That's what resilience is all about, folks, is getting through the challenges of life. And we need to work together to be able to do that. So you can, if you want to get in touch with me, please do. You can get me at info@resiliencetalk.net. That's info@resiliencetalk.net. And again, look at all of our interviews on YouTube, and looking forward to some more powerful interviews coming up. Anyway, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.